believe in yourself, and just have that optimism and confidence. I find a lot of people lack that, and not justifiably. And I think if you just give it a crack, and even if you fail, you're not failing, you're learning.
Welcome back, or welcome to another episode of the Success Times Happiness podcast. I'm your host, Richard Thompson, and today is a very special day. We have the chance to interview Cody Osborne. Now, for people who know me really well, will have already met Codes, fallen in love with him as well, and understand how much of a genuinely beautiful person he is. For people who don't know me but do understand what we've been doing for the last few years, you'll have known that I tag Shadestone Films in pretty much everything that I do, and Cody is the man behind that. He has never gone in front of the lens. He's always the guy behind the lens, filming, taking photos, just being next to me for pretty much everything that I've done over the last 3 years. We're in joint venture in business together. We are 50-50 in this podcast venture. And then I said to him, it would be lovely to be able to sit down just before he turns 22 and talk to him about his life and about what makes Cody, Cody. It's a beautiful story, and I hope you really enjoy it. So here we go.
It's not really a welcome to the show because...
Okay, yep. Cody Osborne, welcome to the desk.
In front of the camera.
I definitely say welcome to the show, but you've been at every show. This is a special episode. I certainly didn't think that I would get you in front of the camera at all, let alone this early on. But given your birthday is on Thursday, I think we should do a Cody special every year on your birthday, and then track how you're progressing and track how the year has been. And I think it's a nice idea to be able to. I don't think it's coincidental that it's your birthday and your birth week, and you're in front of the camera.
Stars have aligned.
So for the people that know me, know you, and the people that don't know me would have never seen you, would have never met you, but have seen all your work that you've done for me, and particularly including this podcast. So you are a very special human in my life, but someone who, by your own admission, you'd rather be on that side of the camera and take a good shot and do all the things, but not be the center of attention. So I know you well, and I know what you've gone through in your life, and you've given me permission to be an open book today.
Yeah.
Which I thank you, and I thank you for your courage and vulnerability to be that open book. How would you describe what you do? What do you do for a job, Cody Osborne?
I would say I'm a cinematographer, but breaking it down even further, I would say storyteller. That's the crux of what I enjoy the most out of my work. So cinematographer, first and foremost. I love film, always have. Enjoy how films are made, the behind the scenes, all the tech side of things with cameras and lighting and so on. But at the end of the day, it's telling a story. So whether that is video or another format, stills, podcasts, it's why I love this so much, being able to talk to so many different people and hear their stories and what they've gone through and what they've achieved. So I'd say, storyteller.
So take me back when growing up on the Sunshine Coast.
Clowned my whole life.
Clowned your whole life. Come from there this afternoon. Going through high school, what did you... For given this is a birthday episode, Codes is 21, turning 22 this week. What are you thinking you want to do going through high school?
Going through high school, I always knew it was film. They'd actually they gave us media in grade 9, but took it away further than that. So I'd set up a little film club at school that we'd do once a week at lunchtimes, and would make little short films with a group of 4 or 5 of us in that, and yeah, just anything that involved a camera really.
Yeah.
Academics, I wasn't great at anything. I enjoyed graphics and had a little battle with a mate, Jake, who were always fighting for first in that class, but other than that, it was just average school life.
And also you were able to identify that it's that creative path through storytelling and creating that content that drew you. Like, what was it about? Was it that early on, or was it just, why do you think you were drawn to film? And
I don't really know. I just, as far as I can remember, I've always loved film. I'm really lucky. It's funny, my auntie is a wedding photographer, so I've always been around her cameras and borrowing her equipment and things, sometimes to the detriment of a few lenses, but yeah, that would probably be a main driver of it. My mum had actually done a Bachelor of Film and Television, but I didn't find that out until probably later on in high school, because she'd since gone into accounting and running pubs and stuff, so never really knew about the film side of things. But yeah,
right. And then what drew me to you, what sort of sparked my interest was your ability, how young you were and how good you were at what you did, what you were able to do, even early on. And I think even I'd be able to look back and go, shit, you've like 10x your ability in a couple of years. That it was all self-taught.
Yeah.
And yes, you had that, if you had that film club and you started honing your craft in high school, but it wasn't like you thought, all right, I've got to go to uni and do this. It was like, I've got the nous to learn it on the go.
No, yeah. I started my business, so I got my ABN and everything set up in grade 10 in 2015. My cousin Scott had always loved remote control things, and I loved the idea of having a drone, so we went halves on a drone, and after I had a bit of fun flying that around, I went, I can probably do something with this business-wise, and got my mum's help to set up with an ABN, and spoke to some family friends who were real estate agents and started doing drone photography and that. And kind of around that same time, grade 10, you've got this like integrated work experience. I think it was only probably a week long at some point in grade 10. Some people really loved it, got really engaged with it. Some people didn't. I was lucky that I got into a business, Sunshine Coast Videography, and Jaden, and he taught me a lot of the basics over that week, and I actually continued doing work experience. And
of film or of the business of it?
Of film.
Right.
So that was like wedding videography and some real estate stuff.
So you're 15 and you've gone, oh, it'd be cool to fly a drone, and actually there's a market here on the coast to contract to real estate agents to drone footage properties.
Yeah, so this is back, 2015, so not that long ago, but in my terms it's quite a bit ago, and this is before drones were something every man and his dog had. It was something that you would go out and contract someone for. It's not nowadays. Pretty much every real estate agent has their own drone.
Sure.
But this is back before that, and I saw a niche in the market, and worked with a few real estate agents, worked with the Big Pineapple to do some stuff on one of their developments, and grew from there.
So there's on a professional level for me, there's two really interesting elements to you that I'd love to dig a bit deeper in. One is that ability to learn and the thirst for knowledge and the thirst to be better. And even with the podcast, you are continually trying to be better at, and as I am, which I don't know whether I'm doing a great job in terms of the questions and answers, but in terms of what we're trying to achieve here. And certainly over the 2 or 3 years that we filmed for Ultraman, it was just, people were just going, holy shit, this is next, like this is the real deal. And even Marcus as director, because you became director of photography for the film, I was trying to say to Marcus when he was in Melbourne, he was just, I was like, Coates is really good, hey? And he was like, oh, okay, yeah. And then finally got to see it in Hawaii, and I think he was blown away by it. So it's that element that I find interesting, that's an innate thing for you to keep.
Every skill I have, I always picture I can be better, sometimes to my own detriment in terms of mental health. I won't give myself credit when I've done something well, but on the flip side of that, I'm always willing to learn, and even if I've done something what I perceive as perfectly, there's always, oh, I loved that podcast episode, I did that so well, but if,
Sure.
And then always changing, like we've been 6 months into this, I've completely changed the way I edit the podcast 2 weeks ago, constantly learning, and that's mostly through YouTube and just social media. I'll see something, I'll give that a crack, and that stems into most things in my life as well. My mum runs some pubs up at Maryborough, so I said I'd go up and give her a hand renovating, and so I did obviously painting and stuff like that, but then I taught myself how to do like the hybrid flooring for putting all that in, and then there was plumbing to be done, so I was figuring out on the job how to do that, and I think I went back to the plumbing store like 6 times that day to get the right stuff. But and even most recently with my mates in my 4-wheel drive, I've been teaching myself how to weld, but I'm always keen to give something a crack. I don't expect I'm going to be great at it.
Yeah, you've got like the massive suspension on your 4-wheel drive, and you're like, yeah, I did that.
Yeah, just in my garage, a couple mates.
Which is like, I sort of feel like that's such a almost like a, without stereotyping the trade, but it's a tradies mentality of, I'll be able to do it.
Yeah,
There's an answer to it. I'll figure it out. Right. It's an engineering trade, I think, as well, but it's obviously something that resonates with you to go, there's an answer. You don't need to go to university, not often, to get the answer. And I'll do my best. Obviously, you're not doing any medical procedures, I hope, by yourself.
No, not yet.
The second arm that I find really intriguing for you is the entrepreneurial arm, whereby you have, it's a similar vein of, I'm going to do that in business because why not? And I don't know whether that's your mentality, but it could be very easy for someone with the same skill set as you, who has that has the engineering tradey type, I'll figure it out, but quite happy to be an employee, to work for somebody, to do the job, still be focused on efficiency and focused on perfection, but quite happy just to do it for somebody else and not do it under your own steam. Why do you think, where is that entrepreneur, like even at 15, right, for you to go, we'll go halves in a drone, joint venture, and you think you paid it off within the second engagement with a real estate agent, and then it's all cream. Like, where did that come from?
I think it's definitely very much my upbringing. Both my mum and my dad both have their own businesses, have both always been sole traders. Same with my grandparents and my auntie and my uncle, all their own different businesses. And I think it's in part the upbringing, and in part the way you approach things and the way you're taught and brought up. If you're not told it's difficult, you don't perceive it as difficult. So I think if I was brought up in a family where both my parents were employed, and then I was like, I want to start my own business and do this, it might have been a bit different. It might have been, oh, that's actually a bit difficult. You've got to do this and this. Whereas,
well, there's a lot of risk in that. You should probably just get a job with somebody else.
Exactly. And so I think it's like the trait with, if you've got a young kid and they fall over, if you start laughing or be happy with them, they'll copy off you and laugh and happy. But if you go straight into the, oh no, you're okay, they'll start crying.
Yeah.
That kind of thing of, you take perception off other people. And I think just growing up around that, I was very lucky to have that parents and mentors around me to set me on that track. And basically, I never looked at anything as that's going to be too difficult or anything like that. It was like, this is a problem. It's got a solution. With enough time, I can figure that out. And I just go I know where I want to be, I know where I am, and I work my way up to that.
Is that something that your family circle, your circle growing up, was that the ease of entrepreneurship, let's say, or the positives around that? Was that expressly said to you, or are you just picking that up by osmosis and going, shit, that's what they do, so that's okay?
Yeah, no, that it was never, oh, you get to be your own boss and work your own hours. It was never that. It was just
this is what life is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, to this date, I've literally worked my first business. In between there, I worked with a few people, Greg Gardner Photography and Sunshine Coast Video and a few others, but I've always had my own entity through that. And then I was working for a job and they no longer needed me. This was, I think, just before COVID. It's funny how we work pre-COVID, post-COVID. And that kind of gave me the push to go, okay, let's do this full-time without consistent freelancing from a different business as well. And that's around the time that I met you, and I initially came on with you and Ash. Just doing the social media for the documentary was the original plan.
Yeah.
And
I think we met earlier than that. I think it was pre-COVID, and it was you were working. It
was either 2018 or 2019
September.
Mooloolaba triathlon. I met you at the tents there.
And so what drives you on an entrepreneurial level? What's the goal here for Cody? Do you feel pulled in both directions, in the sense of the creative element of storytelling, and that sustains you with regards to your passion and what you love doing? And then do you feel a different pull on the business side of things, or are they so mixed for you that it's just...
They're one and the same mostly for me.
Okay.
Throughout my business, I've never done any marketing or gone out chasing people. I know it sounds a bit cliche, but I've always been along that natural approach of you'll meet people along the way and they'll introduce you to people and so on and so forth. And I've kind of progressed, and once it goes to I'm getting bigger clients, I'll get that bigger camera, or I'm getting more people, I'll start looking at having people to freelance for a crew. I never really went, okay, at this stage I need this and this stage I need this. I can't remember when it was. It would have been like grade 10 or 11. I don't know. I've always had the long-term goal of having a family, having wife and kids. And I had one of my, I don't think I've actually had him as a teacher, but Sean Morris, and he was one of the teachers at my school, and he was single, and he'd said that he was wanting to travel the world and get all that knowledge and be able to, when he brought kids into this world, he wanted to be able to have that knowledge and that, not wealth, but safety net behind him. And that's kind of always stuck with me. And so most major career goals and aspirations and things like that are kind of all driving to that goal at the end.
Oh, that's beautiful.
There's no set time or date or anything like that, but it's, I want to be able to have, I don't want to be rich and have Mercedes or BMW, I should say, BMW or anything like that. But I want to be able to just go through life and not have to worry about money. I want to be able to go out for dinner with mates and go, I'll grab this. Like, I always enjoy being able to help out others. And
So that is really beautiful. You're preparing for your future happiness,
essentially, and
security.
Yeah, and something that you said a few pods ago that really stuck with me is, you'll have to help me with this, but it was sacrifice is putting off today's pleasure for future increased pleasure, or whatever it was.
Yeah.
But that's without knowing it, that's basically the mantra I subscribe to.
Yeah. And I don't know whether I'm going over old territory on that pod, but I think that mentality works twice, because the delayed gratification of putting off today's small pleasure for tomorrow's greater pleasure, not only does the end result compound, but the sacrifice is the reward. So not only is the journey better, but your end result is better as well. Okay. Because without going into too much detail, you're soon going to have a stake in a law firm. You've never been to law school.
No.
And you're 22.
I've watched a fair bit of Suits, though. So.
I'd love to know if there is if there's someone under 22 or 23 in Australia who doesn't have a law degree who will have a share in a private law firm. But that's, for me, that goes towards the person that you are and the work ethic you have, and every single decision, every single conversation you've has led up to this point to allow yourself to be there.
Yeah.
At that juncture. Where does that internal confidence come from when you say, yeah, that can happen. I'll make that happen. Because surely 99% of people go, oh yeah, nah, that's not something that I wanted. No, I'll just buy some Woolworths shares. Thank you.
It's funny you say that, because most people that know me would never put Cody and confidence in the same sentence.
Sure.
I very much have the split between personal and professional, and I think all my personal confidence is in professional. So
yeah, you're incredibly introverted, and I would say and I know that you are a different person in a crowd of people you don't know, and compared to in a crowd that you do.
Yeah.
But even with the crowd you do, you're introverted, which is beautiful, and that's just you, and that's I'm not saying that's a bad thing. But it's almost like Clark Kent is an introversion, you're Clark Kent introverted, and on a business level you're Superman. Like, truly.
Like that. Thank you.
I'm 20, I'd be 26 in a law firm with a law degree, with 4 years under my belt at that time, not thinking that I could have a stake in a law firm.
Yeah.
And here's you. So where does that come? Yeah, that's my question. It's a dichotomy. It's the same person, but yeah.
I don't know. I think it still comes back to that whole, if you don't get told it's difficult, you don't perceive it as difficult. And I'd say in business sense, I have an overly optimistic view on most everything. And I set myself goals and things I want to achieve and just go for them. And if it doesn't work out one way, you step across onto a different path and keep going. And I try and not stall too much, I'd say.
Okay. So there are themes out of what you just said that you're optimistic, that you can pivot. If things don't go right in one direction, you go, I'll find the right direction in another. And you've drawn success out of that. Why don't you think you can put that into your personal life? You've got the same, it's exactly, you create, and we'll now get into this. You have those tools. It's not as if you haven't come across those tools.
No.
But from someone looking in, I would desperately love you to have that in your personal.
I'd love it too. At the end of the day, I can't seem to reconcile it. And I don't know what it is, but my interior self-esteem, my interior self-worth is just non-existent. And for most people, I'd say personal and professional, that would be intertwined. But for myself, I'm very much able to separate it and then go at work, hitting goals, things like that. But if I personally try and go, wow, I've done really well this week, it doesn't happen. And I don't really have an answer for that. I had a beautiful family, beautiful upbringing. School was a bit tough, but it's tough for everyone. And yeah, I've always struggled with that.
How would you describe school as tough?
I was always the outlier. That was all through both primary and secondary. I had a stint, it's funny looking back on it now, but I had a stint in primary school that I think for 4 years I'm very introverted, and I'd only really have like one best mate. And for 4 years, that best mate left. So it was 4 different people. They'd come to the school.
Oh, fuck.
I'd be best mate with them.
And then they'd leave.
And they'd leave at the end of the year.
For whatever reason.
4 years in a row.
Yeah, okay.
And I'm able to look back on that now and laugh at it. But I don't know, maybe it's something in with that. And I don't talk about it too much, but I do. Sorry, we've got the phone watching kids' doors upstairs.
Yeah,
so
my
I'm just
children
watching
are
the
asleep
cat run
again.
around.
This is how hectic our life is at the moment. We have my phone upstairs on FaceTime, looking at my 2 children's doors, and there's a cat roaming at the top. Our cat. It's not a random cat, but walking around. Anyway.
Yeah, I've got ASD. I've got Asperger's, and that's mostly been my superpower, I'd say, especially in a professional sense. It makes me super hyper-focused on things. So generally with ASD, you'll have one set hobby or pastime. Mine's always been cameras, whether it's been playing with them, filming with them, YouTube. But it's also obviously affected my socializing skills and my anxiety when in groups and things like that. And yeah, I'd say school's pretty relentless at the best of times, but I can't really complain. I've got great mates now, and I only really look forwards.
You're young still. And Michelle and I were talking this weekend about how we saw these 2 kids on a motorbike, and they were at a service station. They would have been, not much older than you. They're both getting their vapes for the week or for the day. I don't know how long vapes last for. But they were yahooing, and they both jumped on their one motorbike and off they went, And we made this idea that, she made this comment that, like, people say that life in your 30s is really good because you know where you're going. You know what you're up to. You know who you are to a certain degree. And your 20s, you just have no idea. And then we reflect and looked at yours, and it's like, man, you're young, but you've got it. You're so advanced of those people that are just treading water, right? On a business level, accept that.
Okay.
Even now at 22, what would you say to that young Codes in early secondary school when you are up against it to where you are now?
I don't actually know. I was always very concerned with everything, with all the details of anything, and overthink everything. Even still now, I overthink everything. I'd probably tell myself, just don't overthink it.
Can you get that advice to yourself now?
No.
So because you tell me, right, you'd give me this example that even now you'd go to a barbecue or a friend's house and then you'd leave, and it's just a innocuous social Sunday afternoon, and you would be questioning at home for a while whether you left at the right time, whether you offended anyone for leaving at the time you did, whether, like, that's your brain?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not really, not really offend anyone, but like, I didn't fit in there, or I felt like I was hanging around like a bad smell or something like that. And
hypercritical?
Yeah. And that's even with closest mates I've known for 10 plus years. It's a long time for me. But
it's half your life.
Yeah. But yeah, even still, I'll overthink everything. Even this weekend, a group of us went down to my mates on the Gold Coast to kind of just hang out for his and my birthday. And on the way down was all right, but on the way back, how did the weekend go? Was I all right in that situation, or worrying for other people, but how it affects me? And it's something that they wouldn't even perceive. Like, I'm going, oh, did that mate fit in with the rest of my group or something like that? When they wouldn't have given it a second thought. They would have had a great weekend, but I go, why did I put them in that situation, or things like that? Just my brain just keeps going. It doesn't stop.
How is that something that you are looking at as that's just me? That's just how I operate, or is that something you're trying to control, or are you trying to develop strategies because it must be tiring?
It is. I call it my social battery, and I can only really spend so much time in a group or in a social situation before I'm just done.
Toast.
I'm just as good as a brick wall in the corner, basically. And things like that weekend where you're all staying at the one house, sleeping together, waking up together, all that, there's no alone time. I really struggle with that kind of thing. The constant thinking comes with its positives and its negatives. The constant thinking in a business sense, I'm always thinking about different skills and different ways I can do things, and filming, and I'll be almost going to bed and I'll go think of a new camera rig that will work really well for my next shoot, and I'll grab my phone and write down a note, or a new thing for the upcoming business venture or things like that. But in the other sense, it's always overthinking. It's everything.
Talk to me about grief and trauma and how that sits with an introverted ASD kid.
It's challenging. Yeah, I mean, most people that know me know I lost a really close mate to suicide 2 and a bit years ago, and that just sent me into a tailspin. It just amplified everything, and I dealt with a lot of grief, but especially as well self-blame, why I wasn't there, why I didn't pick up on things. It was really challenging time. That lasted for, still to today it's there, but I've developed a lot of great skills and had some great people that I've spoken to that have helped me, so that doesn't control my life anymore. I control it. But for a solid year and a half, it was anything would set me off, and it was just waking up in the morning was a challenge. I still have my days. I struggled a lot with putting that person on a pedestal and going, I put them as better than me, and I went, if that's the result they came up with, what luck does that give me? What chance does that give me? But yeah, I don't really know. I'm very lucky to have met a gentleman from Hervey Bay named Peter, and he does a therapy type called TRTP, and it essentially changed my life. I don't want to be preaching here or anything, but it was, before that, I'd tried talk therapy, group stuff, EMDR, which is like an eye movement therapy, medication, nothing worked. So I really think I just got lucky, essentially, in finding this guy, and was very thankful to Simon, who introduced me to him, who was a family friend. But yeah, without that, I don't know where I'd be today.
You are still had the foresight and the introspection to know, though, that to keep looking for solutions or for help. I think there's a lot of people that are suffering in guilt and trauma, just swallowing it and not looking for professional help. Because it's not, as you know, you and I both know, it's not just sitting down and talking to somebody, some independent person, about what the situation is, and then patting you on the back and saying, that's a lot. Yeah. It's trying to find an actual strategy, because what the world is, the actual reality of life is not what you're seeing.
No.
You got a lens on however you see it. This is for someone who's in depression, right? But you can't, when you see it, when you're looking through that lens, and certainly for me, I knew that I was seeing looking it through the lens. I knew that I was going through this.
I found that one of the most challenging parts was that I knew I was being self-destructive, but I couldn't stop myself. So it was like being in third person, being out of body, watching yourself make these decisions and think these things, but not being able to stop yourself.
Yeah.
And I remember I sent you a message, 6 or 12 months ago, and I said I was having a really crap day, and I said to you, how do you get through the really difficult days? Yeah. I was in a dark spot, and it's always stuck with me what you said. it's a cloudy day, but you know that the sun is there. You may not be able to see it, but like in past, you've seen the sun, you've been with it, you know it is there.
Yeah.
And that kept me going.
Yeah.
That I had a couple close calls, dark times, but that kept me going.
Oh, man.
And it just, I don't even know what it was, but just pure coincidence or whatever. But when I had those sessions with Peter in Harvey Bay, that revolved around some guided meditation stuff and about the sun. And I was like, there's
That's
no
awesome.
chance.
That's awesome.
No chance.
Yeah, I think when you're in those dark places, it can be so dark. But I think I said you have to blindly trust there's a sun up behind the clouds.
Yeah.
Like when you're that dark, you don't believe it, even if you've seen it before. But the reference of the seeing the sun before is your evidence that it does exist, and then it's blindly trusting that it will come when it's ready. So,
Yeah.
but for me as well, because we've both lost in different circumstances, but both as tragic. We've both lost really close friends, and part of me at that time was I don't like. Yes, sure. If I take these lenses off, it'll all be fine. But I don't really want to be fine. The facts don't change. The facts are that they're still gone in this scenario, which has made me so sad and depressed. And you're saying if I do this exercise, then I can.
Like, why do I deserve to be better?
Yeah, or when they're gone. Yeah. Or how could I be better with them gone? Do you know what I mean? And I think one thing that I think you showed me was that like this idea that if you got a ball in a cup that's, almost making the cup, fulfilling the cup, the ball, and the ball represents your grief and the cup represents your capacity to hold that grief. And this illustration that over time, the ball doesn't change its size. So the grief doesn't change. You'll always be sad. It'll always sit with you. But the idea of time and work and self-reflection and all that, the cup increases in volume. So it's only a smaller part of your capacity. And that, I think, solved my bit of, okay, I don't have to come to terms. I don't have to get over the grief of losing someone so close.
No.
It's the size of the ball that'll stay the same.
To the cup.
And then it's the cup that increases. And I thought that was that was from you, and I thought that's really good. Yeah. So, But I'm the furthest from being a therapist, but I still think there's something for you, right, in terms of, and this is outside of the grief bit, but in terms of the tools in business, I think there is a connection to being able to tap into that, to have those tools as a person, and to be able to speak to yourself in a personal level the same way as you approach yourself in business and go, I'm so confident.
Yeah.
Crush this shit.
It's crazy. I'd never, ever talk to anyone else the way I talk to myself, and I'm sure you're the same.
Yeah.
It's that internal voice and external voice.
Yeah.
And I guess it's just rationalizing at the end of the day that no, you do deserve that happiness. You do deserve that pat on the back, and I'm still working on that. But I know I'll get there one day. And
for sure. So where is Cody? What does Cody look like next year? Let's say at our annual podcast catch up that I've tied you into.
Yeah. Is this before or after the podcast awards? Probably before. Probably before.
Yeah.
Well, big change of careers coming up, start of next year. Mm-hmm. It's still doing marketing, film, things like that, but a lot of admin as well. But I really enjoy being able to take a problem, a challenge, and find a solution for it. And over the next 6-12 months, I'm going to be learning so much, and I'm really excited for that.
This is for the law firm.
Yeah. That's what drives me, being able to find the problem and then work backwards from that. So, like I said earlier with the podcast, like I've redone the whole rhythm of editing these podcasts, mostly because we managed to film them on a Tuesday night and they go out Wednesday night. But,
sorry about that. That'll change next year.
Yes, but being able to see the problem is it takes up too much time, and finding a solution, and all the research I did and chatting with mates and things, and I've found AI, I know, big buzzword, but some AI programs that help me to cut down and edit, so then I'm more doing proofing of the episodes than
raw
physical editing.
Yeah.
So just taking that mindset, the mindset I've had forever, and applying it to this new career change, and I'm excited for it.
So it'll be more podcast episodes, different studio.
Yes.
And it'll be cool to sit down in a year's time as you're turning 24.
Yes.
No. 23.
23.
Sorry, shit.
I haven't agreed
I
with
feel
you.
like maybe get that right.
Yeah.
It'll be cool to see. And then where's Codes in 5 years, do you think? What's best case scenario for you?
I don't know about 5 years. 10-year goal was retired by 30.
Okay.
Retired for me is a different sense to most people. Retired for me is doing the projects I want to do unrestrained financially.
So is that like a FIRE sort of approach in terms of financial independence, retire early? So would you work out in that sense how much money you would need to retire to 90 and work, and then have that in 10 years? So then
No, it's a ongoing, whether it be through companies or through property development or online courses and things like that are
paying for your passive income.
Yeah.
Correct. Different income streams.
Yeah. Diversifying my income to be able to work on businesses, work with friends, or work on films, things like that, where I'm not having to worry about putting food on the table for the family or things like that. But I don't think I'd ever be able to just go, okay, I'm retired by 30. Let's go. One and done kind of thing. Like my grandfather, I'm not sure how old he is now, but he's still every day doing more, like he'd be in his late 70s.
You're insulting the man now.
Why can't I think of his age? Anyway, he's a big inspiration to me. He loves buying and selling property, and he is still doing that to today, and managing all his other properties and things with my mum. And he'll never truly retire, which I think is just amazing. And always having a problem to solve is the goal.
I like that. Okay, so at the end of each episode, believe it or not.
Really?
Yeah, really. We do some fast questions. I don't know what episode this must be. I think this is 26, 7. I don't know.
27.
So you've seen everyone answer the question. So first off, Cody Osborne, and I think I'm going to ask you the same questions in next year and see if the answers are different. Number one tip for someone to be more successful in their life.
More successful is, I'd say, believe in yourself, back yourself is, the quick fire answer.
Yeah, sure. And I
back
like
yourself, believe in yourself, and just have that optimism and confidence. I find a lot of people lack that, and not justifiably. And I think if you just give it a crack, and even if you fail, you're not failing, you're learning.
That's awesome. Same tip for someone trying to find happiness.
Not that I do it, but don't overthink it.
Okay. Your most gifted book or your most recommended book to read?
I've only just started reading in the last like 6 months.
So it's like the Canon user manual.
Yeah, pretty much. But literally, I didn't read all through school, all through high school. It was kind of an achievement of mine that I'd get relatively high marks without reading any of the material. Since then, I've read a few good books. Not that it's like the series I've just finished, which I love, not informative by any means, but the Tomorrow When the War Began series.
Sure.
I had a friend suggest that one to me and I got hooked. That was 7 books worth.
Yeah.
And not that it's out yet, but one of my good mates, Quinn, has written his own book, and that's what originally got me into reading now.
That's a beautiful story.
So I'll have to keep the podcast updated when
Should get
that
him on.
releases. Yes.
As an author.
Well, we had his dad on.
Oh,
so Darren
perfect.
was his father.
Yeah.
But
Be the first
that
father
was
son trip.
amazingly written book.
Okay.
So yeah.
That'd be great. You talk a lot about family, and I know you guys are really tight. And who would be the most influential person in your life?
It's hard to pick one because I don't want to offend anyone, but I'd say not necessarily most influential, but most person I look up to the most would probably be Grandpa, my grandfather. Most influential person, I'd probably say my mum. She's just amazing in everything she does. She has very much the same mindset of me as I'm sure I can do that. Sometimes it doesn't succeed, like installing a fan at home, and now we don't have lights. But
Does the fan work?
Fan works.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah.
It's dark, but it's cool. It's cool.
Yeah. But I'd probably say my mum, not to offend anyone else, because
Yeah,
everyone else is amazing. And my nana's been quite influential in my morals and personal life, but I'd say mum overall.
Yeah, beautiful. And the number one guest, famous or otherwise, you think we should have on our podcast?
Well, you already know this answer, but I really want to have Hamish Blake on the podcast. That is one of my goals with this podcast. It's be up there in the Australian Podcast Awards, get a nomination there, and have Hamish Blake on the podcast.
That's okay. He rides bikes, so maybe there's an in there.
Yeah, definitely.
So, Codes, thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks for having me, I guess.
Usually you're about a metre to my right.
Yeah.
But
gracefully.
It's going to be a big 12 months. And I'm looking forward to checking in with you in 12 months' time, and it will be 50 odd episodes deeper, or maybe 100 by that stage from now, and it'll be good.
Yeah, I can't wait, mate.
Thank you. Well, that was Cody Osborne, the main man behind Shadestone Films and pretty much everything that I do. I won't do too much of an outro to this episode, given that Codes is still in the room and still about a metre away, now happily off camera and to my right-hand side. But I hope you really enjoyed it. Any questions, please feel free to ask us. Shout out to Ask Codes as well. But please share the episode to people that you think would enjoy it. Otherwise, until next time, we'll see you then. Peace.